Hey guys, in this video we're talking about three things. Number one, how to restore headlights cheapest and fastest with the specific tools and products I suggest, and kind of my secrets on how to do this the cheapest. Number two, we're going to talk about problems you can run into if you're not careful, where you can disappoint customers and potentially not restore headlights. And number three, we are going to be talking about a situation where it potentially makes sense to give away headlight restoration for free. So the first thing you see me doing in this video is just taping off the edges. It's always something I suggest doing because you're going to be using sandpaper and you don't want to be rolling over the paint with that sandpaper. So let's go ahead and break down the tools and products. Number one, a spray bottle filled with tap water is more than enough. You do not need running water. You do not need a hose. It's a gigantic misconception. I get the question all the time, and it limits guys from jumping into headlight restoration because they think they have to have some sort of water hookup, and it's just not true at all. Now, secondly, the machine that you see me using in this video is called the Mirka Palm Sander. It's a 3-inch. The problem is it's relatively expensive. You can do the exact same thing that I'm doing here with a dual action polisher, specifically a 3-inch dual action polisher. You can even do it by hand, but for the sake of this video, I want to talk about doing it with a dual action polisher. The place where most detailers kind of waste money, or let's just say spend more money than they would necessarily have to, is that they're buying some detailing specific, let's say sandpaper or like foam interface, foam backed discs. The problem with that is that you will get upcharged when you buy from like Rupes X-Cut or something like that. I love those discs. They're really, really fantastic. But for headlight restoration, you just don't have to spend that. What I would suggest doing is going on Amazon, and I'll hook up all this in the YouTube description box below, buying a specific 3-inch foam interface for like 99 cents or $6.99 for a pack of 3, and then you can get some sort of Trizac disc. You can get a film-backed 1500 grit, 1000 grit, 800 grit, put it on the foam disc, and you've created a foam-backed disc for way less money because you had to do it yourself. You didn't buy it all in one. That's what I'm doing here. It's a 1500 grit Trizac disc. It's attached hook and loop Velcro to a 3-inch foam-backed, and then I've got it on the Mirka. You could just as easily, like I said, put it on a 3-inch DA, and that's probably a tool that you already have. And the reason you're saving money here is the same reason why buying a block of cheese is less expensive than buying the shredded cheese, right? If you have to shred it yourself, people tend to charge less. If you buy it already shredded, the convenience fee is worked into the price. So that's what's going on here. Now, secondly, I want to talk about some problems that a lot of detailers face with headlight restoration that they don't anticipate until it happens to them. There's a couple things that go wrong in headlight restoration, and it's never with the restoration itself. It's with the judgment that the detailer makes on the front end about whether or not the headlight can be restored. It's important to understand, and most of us know, what headlight restoration is, and what you see me doing here is simply sanding off the thin layer of clear coat that is manufactured onto the front end of the plastic headlight as it yellows and oxidizes over time. The clear coat on the headlight is not quite like the clear coat on the paint. At least it doesn't react the same way to the elements over time. In other words, it can get kind of yellow and oxidized a little bit easier, let's say, than the paint is going to. And so that's why you see a lot of the failure of the clear coat on certain make and models of different vehicles. I think the Toyota Sequoia like 2004 is one of these. You'll see the headlights are always yellowed like 5 or 6 years later if they're not completely replaced. And so you see that on a lot of vehicles because certain clear coats on certain headlights kind of have this failure point that, again, if they don't get replaced, it's going to happen every single time. So we're sanding off the thin layer of clear coat, then we're polishing out the sanding marks, and then we're ceramic coating the headlight for more protection later on. The issue is that headlights can look cloudy and scratched up, and it isn't necessarily the fault of the clear coat. One of the things that can happen is literally just like you would have random isolated deep scratches or swirls in the paint, you can get a similar effect on the headlight where even when you sand it down and you polish out the sanding marks you made, you still see a bunch of scratches in the headlight. That is because those scratches are deep into the plastic, and it is a lot more difficult to fix random isolated deep scratches inside of a plastic headlight than it is inside of paint. And I actually have a friend who for a living has built a really great business selling used headlights, where they will take headlights that have been really damaged, they will restore them, and then they will sell those high-end headlights to the customers who are driving the nicer BMWs and Mercedes, all this sort of stuff, who need those headlights, and they sell it to them for cheaper than, for example, they would get through the dealership. And so I actually have a fair amount of knowledge on what it takes to restore a headlight that is really damaged, and I can tell you it is most of the time beyond what a detailer does. Like I said, his entire business is dedicated only to this, and when you see him, what he does to them, it makes sense as to why. And so it is important to understand that headlight restoration can go beyond the scope of a detailer's practice, and if it is going beyond simply sanding off the clear coat and polishing out those sanding marks, you might be outside of your territory. Another common problem is internal moisture on a headlight that looks like oxidation because you can't see the tiny little water droplets. So there's 1,000 reasons why this can happen, but over time, headlights can become kind of these water magnets, or let's say these water vapor magnets, because they're not completely sealed. Sometimes it happens from the vibration of the car. Sometimes it happens because of a manufacturer issue. There's all different kinds of reasons they can become, like, let's say, unsealed sealed, but they do get water vapor that kind of, again, condenses on the inside, and it looks like oxidation to the untrained eye. And so you're sanding, and nothing is happening when you polish out the sanding marks because you've still got this water vapor on the inside. And it's a problem that cannot be fixed by sanding off the clear coat, obviously. Now, the last thing that I want to point out here is that there are some situations in my business where I've really benefited from actually doing headlight restoration for free, and it is specifically in a context where I am trying to onboard somebody as a maintenance client. One of the easiest ways to onboard somebody as a maintenance client, even after the first detail or first business you've done with them as you're having the in-person conversation, is to simply point out an area of their car that needs restoration, like headlights. The reason why I like the headlight restoration kind of value add for free here is because it is what I would call a low-cost, high-impact service, meaning it does not cost me much to do it. I can do it in like 15 minutes or less on most headlights if they're not too bad, and it's something that really means a ton to the customer. So it's low cost to me, but it's this dramatic kind of visual transformation, and so customers really geek out about it. It's the perfect, therefore, kind of like little niche of a service to add for free if I'm trying to onboard somebody. So one of the pitches will sound something like this. Hey, listen, we've already talked about a maintenance client. We've talked about what it is. We've talked about why it's valuable, but those who are getting on now are getting free headlight restoration at the next detail. And it's a very easy way not to do this price game, which is what most detailers do. Hey, I'm going to lower my price, or I'm going to adjust the price for you specifically where I'm charging below what I want to because I'm trying to onboard you. And I'd rather just add more value in an area where I know they need the value added. And it's a very easy way to get somebody to make a decision. So I'm not saying give headlight restoration away for free all the time, but what I am saying is there are certain situations where it does make sense. And when you can tailor a specific value add to someone's specific car rather than kind of like the generic, hey, everyone gets a 10% off discount if you are onboarded as a maintenance client today before the winter time. There's no kind of specificity, and it doesn't really hit that itch that customers have where they've got a problem on their car they've been wanting to deal with, but they've been putting it off and they don't really know who to talk to. They don't know how much it costs. All of a sudden, I can hit that little itch right there in person, say, hey, we actually can fix this problem for you. I can show you pictures and videos of before and afters of other clients, so it becomes really, really appealing, and it's something specific to their vehicle. Now, for those of you wanting to see the products and tools I used here, I will link them all up in the YouTube description box below, and even more important than that, I have an entire list of every product and tool that I suggest a professional detailer have and need in the YouTube description box below called the Pro Detailing Toolbox. You can find explanations in video form, PDF form, written form of all of those products just by signing up to grab that totally free to you. I don't work with any of those companies. It is completely not sponsored. It is just what I have learned to suggest over the last 15 years of doing professional detailing. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you got some value here, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, remember, a great detailer is always learning, and I will see you guys in the next video.